Okay, we're going to look at another algorithm now. Now this is the Nonlin2 reverb algorithm. Now this is kind of pretty special. It allows, as the name implies, to do all the classic non-lin type reverb sounds so synonymous with the 80s. It allows us to do all the gated snares, gated toms, all those kind of things which are very hard to achieve in a normal situation without setup. You'd normally have to get a reverb, send it to a gate, have something to trigger the gate to get it to gate the reverb, all that kind of thing. We can very easily do all those kind of effects with the Nonlin2 reverb. Now firstly, I'm going to just show you it in its classic setting, just so we can get to grips with the parameters itself. Now probably the most famous use of gated reverb that most people will remember is obviously Phil Collins' In the Air Tonight. I very crudely mocked up a drum part and a couple of other parts to go with it, just to show you how we can achieve similar effects very easily with the Nonlin2. Now as you can see, it's got a very similar family resemblance in terms of its look. And again, that's taken directly from the System 6000. Very easy to work with. This plugin works on 2 pages. We've got the main page here where we've got again the reverb in level, out level, dry level and wet level. And we've got this fantastic section at the bottom here which allows us to do the shaping of the reverb. Now what that means is we can actually have a reverb that kind of has a slow attack or holds for a period of time or has a long decay. So we can create all sorts of kind of weird ambient effects that are almost like reverse reverbs or reverbs that kind of suck to the sound. So this is what I've got on the drums. This is the drums without it. So you can kind of hear, it's very kind of standard. Just a sort of live drum track. Now let's put the Nonlin on so you can hear the effect it's immediately having to that. Immediately you've got that really kind of well-known, familiar kind of, really kind of cranked, gated sound that's really exaggerated. Now how did we achieve that? Well, most of it happened with the envelope shaping we've got at the bottom here. So let's have a little kind of change of that so you can actually hear what we can do with it. So we can have a big pre-delay. Immediately you can hear the reverb comes after the initial sound. We could have a longer attack. So we feel like the reverb's sucking. Or we can hold the reverb for longer. So it's like a longer, more exaggerated process. Or we can have the release very short. So it cuts off straight away, or perhaps really long. So as you can see, it's incredibly easy to tailor the sound to what you want. So that's the amplitude envelope, which we've got available to us. Again, as I've already said, it makes creating these sounds so easy because you just fiddle around with it till you get the kind of sound you're after. But what we're going to look at now is another example of something I've mocked up for the purposes of today. It shows it being used in a bit more of a contemporary way. But then we've got this second page, which is the Modify page. Now on this Modify page, we can choose all these different twists on reverb types, which allow us to kind of alter the kind of character of the sound. Now firstly, I'm going to show you how I've got it set up in this example, and then we'll play around with it to show you how it can drastically change what you're doing. So firstly, let's hear the track that's using the Nonlin2 on without it, so you can kind of hear what's there. Okay, it's kind of like a little percussion loop. Now let's put the Nonlin2 on, and what I've used it for is to kind of create a real kind of tonal character to it that makes it much bigger, and you'll see how it kind of relates much more to the rest of the things in the track in a minute when I turn them on. So let's now turn it on. Immediately it's got that kind of real kind of vibey energy to it, and it's almost got a tone to it, like a musical part, as opposed to just a percussive part. So let's hear that in the track. Kind of dance track, but you can hear how the NonLin2 is really adding a character to that sound and totally transforming it. Let's turn it off so you can hear it without. The sound becomes very weedy and small, and it just really doesn't play an important part like it does when it's on. Okay, so that's the part. Now let's look at this twist section, the modifier page. As I've said, there's 2 pages on the NonLin2, and this is the second page. And we can in here do all sorts of things to the sound to really twist it up and make it kind of mangled and different. So let's hear the part we've got. Okay, now we've got the reverb type here on the side here, on the left-hand side. Okay, the first thing we've got is on the left-hand side, we've got this reverb section where we can choose different types of reverb. Now I was using a rough reverb, but let's choose something a bit different. Immediately you can hear the character changes. Now let's change the twist. Now, as I've already explained, the twist section is a set of complex modulations and delays that are going on behind the scenes. You don't actually get to go under the bonnet with them, which is really good because it allows you just to listen to sounds and audition them till you get the thing you want. So let's go through some of the twists. I'm on ventilation at the moment. Let's put it on to something like synthetic. Immediately you can hear the characters changed. Spaceship changed. As you can see, they're all creating a very different character to the sound and taking it away from the classic kind of gated reverb sound. To further show that example, if we move back to the first example, which was the classic Phil Collins In the Air Tonight drums, here it is as it was before. Now if we go into the modifier page and put that on, immediately you can hear the difference. Let's choose something called Chicken in the twist section. Totally weird sound. Let's change the reverb type. We're very easily able to change the character of the gated reverb. Now I use this tool for loads of different applications. I love it on little percussive parts, percussive loops, percussive sounds, because you can create this real energy between parts by just kind of sculpting the reverbs to your taste. And I love using the modify page to kind of get those really interesting sounds that you wouldn't get just by setting up a gated reverb. Now at the bottom of the modify page we've got a few more parameters. We've got a filter section, so we can do a bit of low cut, a bit of high cut, and we can change the stereo width of it all as well. So let's listen to that example again. We can turn the width right down. Suddenly it's kind of very mono. Or we can really take the bottom end out. And it's just like a little kind of very thin reverb behind it. Or we could do it the other way around. Let's have a really boxy, bassy reverb. And take out all the top end. Now we've got a really dark, deep reverb. So that really, in a nutshell, is the NonLin2. Yes, it can do the classic kind of gated reverb effects, but beyond that, you can think of it much more as a sound design tool. And certainly for contemporary production, which I do a lot of in the kind of dance and pop world, I find it tremendously useful for just adding a little bit of energy and character to drum sounds, percussion sounds, and sometimes even bass or synth sounds.